You made it to the end of the show. Hope we haven't overstayed our welcome. But we're gonna talk about the endings of games before they're forgotten. On Spoiled Rotten.
Nice.
Thanks, Griffin.
Thanks, Ditto. So Portal 2, Spoiled Rotten, finished it, solved it. Kind of wanted to just start playing it again.
So good, with the audio and commentary going.
For sure. Why do they do it so you can't save? Because I'd really like to do like a playthrough, but I don't always finish a level.
I don't know why that is. Yeah, I don't know. I think the idea is that you go in and kind of play individual parts and treat them. But, I mean, the game's got 9 chapters, I think. So each chapter, if you play the full chapter, is maybe over an hour. I mean, that's a pretty big investment.
Like it's a dumb thing to worry about. Overall, I know that you guys... can we talk about it in the context of what I said in my review? Because I'm kind of curious. That's a big question for me. If you guys thought I was crazy, like because I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fantastic. But
I think the fact that you have to address it in 2 different ways. I think you have to talk about it in terms of it being a game that's out there for you to play. I think if you talk about it in that sense, in terms of how well it's designed, how well it's written, how all that stuff, how clever the puzzles are, how even the difficulty goes up. Like if you think about playing a game as eating popcorn,
mm-hmm.
When you sometimes get that kernel that hasn't popped and you don't know it's in your mouth and you bite down hard on it and you're like, ah! Like that's
yes.
That's the kind of
sadly I know exactly what you're talking
about.
That's
a difficulty spike, like or a bad piece of filler in a game. There's none of that in Portal 2. Like it's just delicious popcorn, nom 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 all the way.
Yeah, I think I did it.
Like
in
that
one
makes sense,
sitting,
right? Like
basically.
So it's clearly a basic. It's a brilliant, excellent game, but as a sequel to Portal, what are its faults?
I mean, let's talk about let's take it more positive here. Let's talk about its successes. The challenge of following up Portal, which is that's pretty substantial, right? Like that. Think of that burden. I think a lot of the gameplay innovations that they added to it, the paint, for example, were really significant. Were really, I would almost call it generous. The amount of stuff. I mean, they actually took out a lot of stuff. They had a gel that let you walk on walls. They took it out because it made you nauseous. They had a reallocation tube. It was basically a vacuum, and you would shoot a hole near something and a hole near the vacuum, and it would suck things in. They took that out also because they thought it was confusing for people.
It does kind of come into play towards the end of the game.
Yeah, there is like one part with it, but there's.
Did you really feel like the new stuff was that good? Like
I did.
I thought it seemed so prescribed. Like with the portals, I think I had the illusion of they're fun to play with, and I didn't really feel like the new stuff was not. I'm not saying it was like boring or whatever. This is
different though. These aren't.
But I didn't get excited when I saw it in a room. I would think like, ugh, I gotta kind of mess with that stuff.
No, it's different though. It's not part of the portal. Like the only way you're solving puzzles is still just with portals. These are parts of the environment. It's ways for you to manipulate and change the environment to solve the puzzle.
Wait, what do you mean? Like that? What do you mean? That's crazy. What you're saying?
No, I mean like what you're doing with a gel is you're changing the physical properties of the environment.
But you still have to use them to solve the puzzles.
Right. I'm saying, but that's all Portal is it's solving environmental puzzles with a portal gun.
I just none of it like. Okay, when the first game came out, Portal, part of what made it so spectacular was that there was this amazing mechanic that not only was fun and worked well, but really was just completely different from anything that had come before, and really required your brain to think in different ways. Like the tag we're always quoting, the think with portals. Like you really had to. There's nothing even approaching that in like bouncy gel or super speed gel. Like it's a twist, sure, but nothing that sort of feels like a sequel worthy addition to the gameplay idea, the central conceit.
Yeah, I mean, I think what their challenge was to make that gameplay deeper, and I think the gels were a huge part of that. I think they actually did a really good job with that. And there's other stuff. It's not just the gels. It's also things like the launch pads. Like there's other fun stuff.
But I mean, I think I can see sort of where Justin's coming from, because a lot of the fluid puzzles were, I mean, you kind of have to keep in mind the fluid dynamics. It was more about transporting them to the right place than sort of flinging yourself through portals in a specific kind of way.
Right, but that's what I'm saying.
Does that make sense, Justin?
Yeah,
it's a different kind of puzzle, right? And that makes sense.
It's a different kind of puzzle, and that's the point, though, is you still have portal puzzles, but now you have these new kinds of portal puzzles.
But I don't think those kinds of puzzles are as fun as the portal puzzles. And actually, I think another problem is that most of those fluid puzzles that you do them in the most boring part of the game. You do them in the worst environment. But
they are portal puzzles, right? It's the same. You're just setting up your environment before you can do the portal puzzle part. And I had a ton of fun setting up, figuring out where to put a little bit of bounce gel, and then setting up a huge, elaborate sequence where you go through one portal, hit a bounce gel, go shoot another portal, then shoot out of the first one. It's it was an extension. It was an amplification of the original portal design, of the original portal functionality, and that's really what it is, right? It's an augmentation, and I think that's a really clever way of using the existing portal mechanic, all the things that's good for. But augmenting it, making it so that you can do things bigger, faster, better. Being able to do a horizontal fling was really exciting the first time I figured that out, And a lot of the puzzles that you solve become so much more complicated than they were in Portal 1. And the satisfaction you get from solving a puzzle that's that much more complicated with multiple gels in an environment that at first glance absolutely isn't solvable. And letting it click in Portal 2, the satisfaction I got out of solving a lot of those puzzles was a lot higher than the satisfaction I got out of Portal 1. Now, there's differences in the presentation. Example, Portal 1 I didn't realize was a narrative game until the end. That satisfaction is irreplaceable. There's no going back and getting that again. It's gone.
But is it? I mean, this feels like they took the things that were great about Portal and put them into a game that is like all the other, like most other games. It's a much more traditional, and I hate to this is really not about the quality of the product, because I think the product is very good. What I'm saying is that as something that sort of slightly denigrates the original experience. This doesn't have the same specialness. It doesn't have the same inventiveness. This is the first Portal was you'd gone through the wardrobe and entered Narnia. The second Portal is you go through the wardrobe, you enter Narnia, but they build a new Denny's at the strip mall. It's still Narnia. It's incredible, but it's not. It doesn't feel like there's another wardrobe inside Narnia that takes you to a cooler Narnia.
Narnia Square.
More bomb.
This is my main problem with the game, though, and when I say problem, I don't mean. I mean, it seems like it's so hard to talk about this game.
I know, this is all couched in the
it's
fact that it's
we have
awesome
to keep taking two steps back and say we're not saying this is a bad game.
Just
Please don't kill us.
accept the fact that the Portal's virtues have been extolled by basically everyone, ourselves included. So we're assuming that you've listened to all that. Ditto on that. Now we're moving on to other things.
Right. So my problem with the game is the great thing about Portal 1 is if you look at it as a puzzle game, you are in this puzzle, you're being tested by an AI, which can stand in for the game itself, right? There's no point for you to solve puzzles in a game. None of the obstacles in a video game, you don't need to solve them. It's a pointless obstacle all times. That's what a video game is, right? So to have an AI test you in these chambers, that's kind of a commentary on that. It's very clever. But you break out of the puzzle game at the end of Portal, right? That's when it gets exciting. You break out of the puzzle game, and now you're using what you've learned while doing these puzzles to solve problems in, quote, the real world. I mean, you're obviously not taking this knowledge, into the actual real world. You don't learn that much from playing Portal, but, so you're taking this knowledge into the real world within the context of the video game, right? So that's what's really awesome. But that's also the aspect that was the least explored in that game. Like, I think if I was going to do a sequel to Portal 2 or to Portal, I would focus on that element. Like, you're out of the puzzle game, now what? But instead, what Portal 2 does is it puts you back into the puzzle game. Like, you go back to the test chambers, you escape again, and then they're like, well, the game has to be longer, so we'll put you back into more test chambers, and you'll escape again, and then we'll put you back into test chambers, and you'll have another 19 chambers. When I saw in the last third of the game that I had to do another 19 chambers, I was like, well, I don't know.
But it wasn't. It was actually
like
that's 16.
That's a pacing killer. And you escape again. So it's like Portal times 3. That's what they try to recapture that experience of being trained and then escaping. Whereas I think they should have just made you could argue more traditional game in the sense that, it's more like a shooter except it's a puzzle game. You know what I mean? Like, make the whole game take place outside of test chambers. Like, make it a more linear structure, like a quest or something. And you're solving puzzles, except it's not, room by room, you're being tested by an AI.
But that's counterfactual. I mean, there's a game that is released that is amazing, that has a lot of really amazing components to it. And theoretically, could another format have worked better? Like, I don't know, maybe, I guess. I don't know. It's
sure. But that would have been more interesting to me than what they did, which is, and it's distracting. It's bothersome to think that I'm playing this. I've already been through this sequence. Like, it's not as interesting to me. And they address it. Like, when Wheatley tests you, he doesn't get as much satisfaction from you solving puzzles. Like, he grows immune to it almost. Like, the effect is less and less. And that's kind of what I got whenever I went back to more test chambers. That feels like the story is being halted and like their ideas are being, locked into a box again. They just want to
go through
that sequence again.
Along those lines, there's a moment, and I think it's about the same one you described, where I thought, like, ugh. And I never had that moment in, like, you're going to do it, you're probably going to enjoy it, but it...
There's two things here. Number one, you poop sock the game.
Yeah, fair.
Right? Like, you played it in a manner that it was not designed to be played in.
I played it wrong, is what you're saying.
Right. Well, you played it in a day.
Just like Castlevania.
You played 11 hours of it in a row. Right?
And yeah, Chris, and what you're saying to me, like, that's why that was not reflected in my review, because I can separate the two. I'm just saying
you recognize that it's unfair. And I think you're right, Luddy. I think looking at 19 test chambers all in a row and thinking, like, oh no, I've got to go do 19. Oh no. Oh dear. It's my C-3PO doing a.
It's good.
It's pretty good, huh?
It's really good.
I'm fluent in over 6 million languages, but I cannot figure out this portal puzzle.
Doing 19 test chambers in a row isn't fun, but like, you probably shouldn't do 19 test chambers in a row. Like, I think in bite-sized pieces.
That's not a good defense, though.
Why not? Playing 10 hours of Tetris probably isn't a lot of fun either, right? It's a puzzle game. Like,
I've
play
played lots
chunks
of games like for like several hours in a row, and I wasn't even playing for that long at that point. I'm like, I was growing tired of being dragged back into test chambers because it's a story conceit that they kind of had married themselves to.
If you read Keeley's book, it really makes a lot of sense, like, as to how this all sort of happened. Like, you see that
by Keeley's book, he means Keeley's iPad app, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thanks. Yeah, his novella.
His erotic fanfic. Wheatley grabbed GLaDOS and wrapped his non-existent hands around her.
You see that they really... I mean, the reason it kind of a little bit feels like a few different games stuck together is that they kind of had to restart the game a few times.
Kind of was a few different games stuck together.
Yeah, kind of basically that's what happened.
Here's the thing. I feel like people are listening to this. This is... And I'm trying to be as positive as I can be. This is the most negative I think we could possibly ever be about Portal 2. And I think it's really unrepresentative of the amount of entertainment, at least that I know that Justin and I got out of playing, for example, the co-op mode.
That was fantastic.
Playing the co-op mode with Justin was a non-stop series of both imaginative and virtualized high fives. Yeah. That satisfaction that you get from the normal puzzles. And I think the co-op mode structure, and to Luddy's point, where I think a lot of his complaints have to do with structure and pacing, I think the structure and pacing in the co-op mode is a lot better than the campaign.
Sure. But I mean, you guys get what I'm saying by, when I say Portal times 3.
Yeah, right. No, it's a 3-act structure, and each one is its own little Portal game, and that's the way that they did it. I think one of the things that they did differently than Portal 1, the production value was way higher. You had all these different characters, you had all these different environments. The environment, I think the old environment was really interesting. This idea that they had another Aperture Science test area beneath the. I don't know how many. I mean, a bunch of other ones, right?
Given the
50s,
direction that they
60s,
chose,
70s.
like it's really well written. I think the story in general is really great. I think all the characters and the way that you kind of spend the part of the game with GLaDOS was really awesome.
I think
You
the
know, like, and I
character of
think
Cave Johnson was great. I think the character of Wheatley's great. I think all the performances were really stellar. The writing is phenomenal.
Absolutely.
You know, I think those things are really significant accomplishments for the game. You know, and it's funny again talking about the final hours of Portal article. A lot of that stuff came together at the end, and it's such a strong achievement for the game.
Yeah.
But you know, I think
You know, I'll tell you what it reminds me of.
Blizzard Manager.
And this is gonna be goofy, so you gotta come with me, okay? It's like The Hangover.
The movie.
Okay.
The movie The Hangover.
You go see the Hangover, and
regret
for
it
this
forever.
gag to work, you have to pretend that it's really hilarious, and just stay with me.
Okay.
Hang
It's
with
going to be difficult.
I thought it was pretty funny, not hilarious. I need you to pretend it's hilarious, okay? You gotta see The Hangover, and it's a great premise, and it works so well, and everything. And it's not. You gotta hang with me here. And the premise, is the source of a lot of the gags, and then you watch it. It's funny. They make The Hangover Part 2, and like the comedy of the movie is really drawn from. A lot of it is drawn from the central premise, like how it is constructed is the source of most of the gags in the film. They do The Hangover 2, and the premise, I haven't seen it obviously, but judging from trailers and stuff, the premise, the sort of idea, the conceit of the movie is basically the same thing. Like it is a hangover, and the guys are waking up from it, and they are trying to figure out what happened. So presumably, the comedy will again be drawn from the same source. This movie may have gags that are just as funny. It may have performances that are just as funny. It may have actors that are just as funny. But the fact that they go back to this exact same well as the source of that, rather than taking these characters and some of these gags into a new premise, a new conceit, a new central idea that is equally interesting, it makes the first one less special. Again, in this alternate reality where The Hangover is really super great instead of just pretty funny. Does that make sense?
That almost made sense to me. I think that was yeah.
See, no, I lost it like a long time ago.
Where did you lose me? I don't see what's confusing about it. They're trading on the specialness, and yeah, it's great, but it was great already. Like, it's not the sequel does not make it more great. It's just trading on the same principles of the first one, which works, and it's a deep well, and they went back to it, but they didn't dig a new one.
No, but I think they did. They dug. There's a big original well, but they also dug some other wells, and then they went to South America and dug a well there for some indigenous. Like, they did a lot of work, and I think a lot of it was
wells?
With wells, a lot of well work. And like the co-op mode. The co-op mode is like a massive accomplishment. I mean, like hands down, probably the most fun actual cooperative gameplay experience I've ever had. That's
Co-op mode is fantastic.
I'm saying, like, that's part of that is Portal 2. Like, that's part of Portal 2.
All right, well then,
And that experience was like such a huge accomplishment, and I think they reinvented in a lot of ways the way that Portal even works by doing that, and then layering on all these other mechanics in co-op mode, and then having it be co-op puzzle solving was like really smart. I think adding the other mechanics in, all the paint mechanics, the light bridge, the funnel, I mean, all that stuff made the environments, compounded the difficulty and sophistication of the puzzle solutions. I think those were all, in their own way, big accomplishments, right? Getting those things to work, making the puzzles fun, challenging, complicated, seemingly impossible. I think the game overall, as long as so there's a philosophical question here of whether or not sequels should ever exist. And if you're going to say no, they should never exist, then sure, it's the worst game ever. Like, that's
no.
But I'm saying, but there's an ideological position that if you can't get over that hump, then sure, you're going to knock off points. But
that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that it should be a sequel. What I'm saying is that they didn't. There was the idea of Portal, like that game. The reason that game worked is so central to its success. That idea of you're in a puzzle game and then you escape the puzzle game and turn on the puzzle maker,
right,
is so
that's exactly
inextricable from what makes that game work, that to just do that premise again 3 different times, this has nothing to do with the mechanics of it. The mechanics of it are solid and evolved. What I'm saying is, from the specialness, which is what really set Portal apart in a field that, in a year that had a lot of great games, what set Portal apart was that turn, that moment in the last chamber when you realized that you were fighting for your life, the evolution of GLaDOS into a character. There's nothing
Here's what I'm gonna say.
that special in this, and I'm not saying, like, that's why I gave it 4.5 stars. It's a great fucking game, and the co-op is nigh perfect, and everybody should play it. Blah 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 blah.
Here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say this is the Citizen Kane example, right? Citizen Kane's a 4 out of 4 movie. How on earth is The Fugitive also a 4 out of 4 movie? It's a great movie, but it's not Citizen Kane. How on earth is Metroid Prime the Citizen? I'm just kidding.
Don't go there. Don't go there.
So if you have a game like Portal versus Portal 2, for me, Portal 2 is a 5 out of 5 game. I think that there was a ton of creativity, a ton of huge successes, a ton of really valuable. I mean, like I said, a generous amount of gameplay evolution from the first game. There was laugh out loud funny moments. There was so this is spoiler rotten, we can talk about it. The part where you shoot the moon at the end, like pants, my boner snapped off. I mean, it was like nuts. And
I did it without even thinking like that it was a stupid idea. I thought, well, I'm gonna put one in the moon.
Everybody does the same thing. Everybody like shoots it and they're like, this is, yeah, right. And then it works, and you're like, what the hell? I mean, just a massive amount of creativity in that game.
Sure.
And I'm kind of like shocked by all of it. I think it's a really staggering effort. However, compared to Portal 1, so for this, Portal 2 is a Game of the Year material? Absolutely. For me, though, yeah. Portal 1 is like top 5 or top 3 games ever made. And so maybe Portal 2 doesn't quite reach that level of success. It's not like, I'm not going to say it's one of the best games ever made.
Sure.
But
yeah, but I think
it's like,
I think saying doesn't quite reach that level of success kind of undermines the issue. It's not as though, because I think that confuses it, makes it seem as though if they had just made it a little better, like if they had made it a little more fun,
you can't make it a little better.
Then it would have been. No, that's not what I'm saying. And again, this doesn't even like. There is probably a group of people for whom, if it wasn't this game, if this wasn't what had happened, it wouldn't be Portal for them. Like,
right. I mean, people love GLaDOS. She's an amazing antagonist, you know?
Yeah, I and I'm not even saying like GLaDOS shouldn't have been in it. I think that they didn't have anything that is narratively, structurally as interesting as what happened in Portal. And
totally.
For me, a lot of what happened there is the reason why it succeeded.
Yeah, but as you said in the last show, like, given the decision that they made and the route that they took and how they approached this, they made as good a game as they could have, right? Like, all these variables that they chose to go with. Let's go with test chambers again. Let's bring GLaDOS back. All that stuff. They did a really phenomenal job, and they were cognizant of all the stuff that was carrying over. I mean, I think the fact that GLaDOS is different in this game, you know, and she treats you like someone who did kill her, and you did.
Super ballsy.
Is something that right? Like, if they didn't do that, if she was like reset or the same character, that would be bad. But they didn't do that.
Right.
So
no. It could have gone raw, like way more raw than my little niggly stupid. And god damn, I cannot imagine what it must be like to work at Valve and to like cram for 3 years on this fucking joint and like work your ass off to make something that is near perfect. And you have dickheads like us, and it wasn't perfect in the way I was hoping it would be perfect.
Hey, John,
Screw you,
John Q. Valve. I just want to go on the record and say that I alone am here to stand up for your honor. Well, these guys.
What's really going to be hilarious is when people say, when this little story turns into, we hated Portal 2.
Right. Why did you guys hate Portal 2 so much? Guys, get Portal 2.
Honestly,
leave
like
the
if
co-op
this,
mode.
if this was our criticism of Portal 2, remember that popcorn I was talking about that we were eating, and it was so nice and delicious. This is like we decided to stone Portal 2 to death in the town square, and we were using that popcorn to do it.
Oh man,
It's about that much.
We are really not. We're not that mad at the game. We love it.
And actually, if you're isolating the co-op, I think the co-op is brilliant. But again, like that's divorcing the narrative of Portal from the mechanics. Like mechanically, Portal is refined in nearly every way you could conceive of. Like and aesthetically too, it is better in pretty much every
The
fashion.
only thing I'm going to say about the mechanics of the game, I'll say this. Valve, you guys have got to figure out the loading screen situation. I don't care what
What
you've
is
got to
your
do.
deal?
Get some streaming in your engine, please.
I don't care what you've got to do. You guys have more money per employee than Google. Like, hire somebody. Hire some Russian guy who's really, really smart.
My name is Viktor Lodinsky.
I work on streaming tech for Source.
I am told you need help with your loading.
So, like, get that guy and just lock him in a room and just let him fix
Find
it.
hookers, whatever you need.
I don't care. Like, there would be test chambers that would take me 45 seconds. I'd blow through it. And then I sit at a 45-second loading. Like, what are you guys doing? What is going on with your engine? Like, I don't care about the technology. That stuff doesn't bother me normally. But this is, like, egregious. It's bad. Yeah, I don't. So, yeah, work on that, though. Make that better for the next
Fix
time.
that shit.
But other than that,
Everything else,
I'll have your baby.
baller.
It was really good.
What do you guys
And if
think
you guys-
what was the funniest thing for you in Portal 2?
The moon. I freaked out when I shot the moon.
The lemon speech is the best.
Oh, the lemon speech was amazing. I really liked the part where you were jumping through the air and she said she's really happy that you're flying through the air like an eagle, piloting a blimp.
Yeah, that was great. All the weight stuff was stand.
Yeah, and then when Wheatley tries it, and he's like, "You're fat, fatty, fat."
Do you remember when she said that you were going to meet your parents?
Oh God.
Yeah,
Did you guys? What do you guys think about the song?
hobo stuff was good too.
Since we're
You know what? Funny, the song. I didn't at first. I was like, you know what? I thought so. It's okay. So I disagree with you a lot about like the returning to the well stuff, but the song thing, I will agree with you on. I thought it was too similar. The presentation, like at the end, same songwriter. You know, like I felt like a lot of that was like, okay, that's a little too on the nose.
I think the lyrics of the song definitely were nowhere near as clever as the first song.
Right. Yep. Agree.
Like I think objectively you can say that.
But in terms of the quality of the song, it got stuck in my head.
I listened to it like 10 times.
I was humming
the
that
next day.
bastard. Yeah, it's really catchy. So,
But the song is great because it totally represents everything that I'm sort of talking about, and not everything is sort of as black and white as that. But like, we ended the first one with a song, and it was amazing because like, who would ever see that coming? And then you do it the next time, and yeah, that's still a great idea, and yeah, Jonathan Colton is still a great songwriter, and yeah, you know all this stuff. But it's this like, you're surprising me, sort of enchanting me in the same way, and it.
yeah.
And
I'll buy that.
You know,
Yeah.
But guys,
Also
I
a
don't
great
know.
ending. Like I'm glad that you didn't just kill Latos again and she just kind of kicked you out.
It was funny
Right.
when she's like, when she thanks you for finding the parts where Caroline lived, so she can delete them. She
Right.
deletes all of them. That's great. But man, you shoot the moon part, so good.
Hey, I had a weird question that I was wondering about after I finished it. Do you remember the story that kind of went on CBG the day before, where they had endings for the game that they thought were fake endings? You remember that? There were like 3 different endings that they thought were fake, and they posted them, and it turned out they were real. Are there alternate endings? Are there?
I think
is there
so. I
just
think
the
maybe it was
one?
just like 3 parts of the ending or something.
I
Oh,
read
okay.
an article where I think Walpaw talked about, yeah, it was a Rock Paper Shotgun interview where it wasn't Walpaw, it was Chet Falzak and Jay Pinkerton, 2 of the other writers, talking about the ending and like that is the actual weighted companion cube, at the end, and you get kicked out, and I mean the song is about what happens at the ending, right? So I can't imagine a different ending where that same exact thing doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So either way, Portal 2, it's really great. They're gonna have DLC for
Fantastic.
it. The DLC is supposed to be coming out like this spring, I think. Valve said
Summer.
I'll buy just whatever you want to sell me, Val. I'll buy it.
God, sell me like a spy game where I'm doing the last levels of the co-op You know, just like for a whole game where I'm like infiltrating a facility.
How awesome was that? It felt so good. So we're talking about Spoiled Rotten. So the co-op sections are like, test chambers until you get to the last level of each. There's 8 levels.
I don't hear this. I didn't finish the co-op yet.
Bloody, this is Spoiled Rotten. How are you even coming to the table with this? No, it's not true. You played some of the co-op, right?
No.
What?
I'm waiting for someone to play with. Nobody wants to play with me. Nobody wants to play with me.
You're on Steam. You got all the PlayStation 3 users that you can't play with.
Yeah, I was going to play with a PlayStation 3 user, but that's not going to happen.
Oh, I should have you mute your thing, but either way.
You know what I've been thinking about for the last 10 minutes or so, Chris, when you mentioned Metroid Prime? What if there was a Metroid Prime game where you could shoot portals from Samus's gun?
Make it for me now, Nintendo.
What's up now?
I'll buy it.
We too. Okay.
That's it. That's it for Spoiled Rotten. I hope we spoiled enough of it. You shoot the moon at the end. It's really great.
What's up?
And that's probably the last Spoiled Rotten we're ever going to do. So.
All right. Well, I had a good run.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you for the song, Griffin. It fit really
Bye,
well.
everybody.
Wait, one last question, Chris. Did you get your boner repaired?
I can't think of a finer way to end this program.
And scene.